Teyu Day. My parents cut off my cancer treatments to pay for my sister's art school. Then the police arrived. Trust the seasons, and one morning you wake up to find everything has changed. Vivian said that letter saved her life. Alexandra still has photos of the original and the draft in her old emails. She hasn't thought about it in years. Vivian never mentioned it again. 4. Reaching out the strange response, Alexandra finally calls her parents to tell them about the cancer. Stage 2. Treatable, but expensive. She's lost her job and insurance. She needs help accessing her share of the grandparents' trust fund. Silence on the line. Then her father asks a strange question. How much do you have in savings? How long can you manage on your own? They promise to help. We'll take care of everything from the trust. Don't worry, Alexandra cries with relief. She doesn't notice that no one said I love you. She doesn't notice that they never asked about her prognosis. Cliffhanger. I thought that was the moment my parents finally saw me. I didn't realize they'd been planning something else entirely. Part 2. The price of silence. Objective. Reveal the financial betrayal. Discover the forgery. Find first evidence of coordinated schemes, set up later discoveries. Tone. Rising tension. Growing suspicion. Controlled anger. Word count target. 1,000. 100 to 1,000. 200 words. Alexandra's current context. 6 weeks after the family's promise, treatment has started with a hospital financial assistance program. But it's precarious. Her savings are nearly gone. No money has arrived from the trust. She flies home to confront her parents directly. Key points to develop. E. The broken promise delivered like a business decision. After weeks of excuses, the lawyer is reviewing paperwork, there's a processing delay. Alexandra shows up at her parents' house unannounced. They sit her down in the living room, not with guilt or discomfort, but with the practiced calm of people who've rehearsed this. They explain they've used her entire share of the trust fund, nearly $200,000, for Vivian's graduate program tuition, her new studio space, and investments in her career. Their reasoning is clinical. Vivian is at a critical moment. This opportunity has a deadline. Your treatment is ongoing. You can wait a few more months until we figure something out. Mom adds, without irony, you've always been so resourceful, Alexandra. Vivian needs more support. She's sensitive. 2. Discovery of the forgery and something worse. Alexandra requests copies of the trust documents, which she's legally entitled to as a beneficiary. For the first time in her life, she reads beyond the annual summary. She finds her signature on a withdrawal authorization form dated 3 weeks after she told them about her cancer. It's not her signature. The handwriting is close. Clearly someone studied her signature, but the pressure is wrong. The loop on the A too tight. She photographs everything. Then she finds something else, a forwarded text thread between Vivian and their parents. Vivian's message, sent the day after Alexandra's diagnosis call. She's going to ask about the trust soon. We should finalize everything before her next doctor's appointment, the response from Dad. Already working on it. This wasn't reactive. This was coordinated from day one. Thumbnail text. While I was fighting cancer, my family was celebrating my sister's achievements. They cut off my cancer treatments to pay for her art school and said, you can wait. So I revealed her biggest secret. Days later, the police walked in. 3. 2 parallel worlds, the Instagram feed. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom, Alexandra scrolls through Vivian's Instagram. The exhibition opening was last weekend. Photos show Vivian in a flowing dress, champagne in hand, surrounded by admirers. Their parents beam beside her. The caption reads, family is my greatest inspiration. Everything I create comes from the love and support that shaped me. 300 comments praise Vivian's unique artistic voice and profound philosophy about patience and transformation. Alexandra reads the artist's statement quoted in the comments. The language sounds familiar. Too familiar. Something about seasons. Something about waiting. She can't quite place it. 4. The research begins finding Mrs. Holloway Alexandra can't sleep. She starts researching Vivian's early life, looking for anything that might explain the pattern she's sensing. She finds an old article about Vivian's middle school, listing art faculty. One name stands out. Elaine Holloway, art teacher, retired 10 years ago. Alexandra searches for her and finds a LinkedIn profile. She sends a message. I'm Alexandra Reese, Vivian Reese's sister. I'm looking into some questions about my sister's early art education. Would you be willing to speak with me? She doesn't expect a response. But at 6 a.m. her phone buzzes. Mrs. Cabson a.m. her phone buzzes. Holloway has replied. I've been wondering when someone would finally ask, Call me. Cliffhanger. For the first time, I stopped asking, why don't they love me enough? I started asking, how long have they been planning this? Part 3. The letter that built an empire. Major climax. Objective. Reveal the central twist. Alexandra's words became Vivian's career. Confirm Vivian as active accomplice trigger. Alexandra's strategic response. Tone. Discovery. Cold clarity. Calculated action. Word count target. 1,000. 100 to 1,000. 200 words. Alexandra's current context. Back in her own apartment. Health declining but mind sharper than ever. The phone call with Mrs. Holloway confirmed her worst suspicions about the past. Now she's connecting the final pieces. Key points to develop. 1. Mrs. Holloway's revelation, the pattern of theft. The phone call with Mrs. Holloway lasts 2 hours. The retired teacher explains, 15 years ago, Vivian Reese plagiarized an entire art project, copying another student's work almost line for line. When confronted, Vivian cried and claimed she didn't understand the assignment. Mrs. Holloway reported it to the principal. A week later, she was called into a meeting with the principal and Richard Reese. Richard offered to donate new computers to the art department if the matter was handled quietly. Mrs. Holloway refused to destroy her documentation. I kept those files because I was angry. They tried to pay me off, but I wouldn't destroy evidence of what that girl did. It was my small rebellion. She also reveals, 3 months ago Vivian showed up at her door, claiming to want to reconnect with her old teacher. But she spent the visit asking pointed questions about what records Mrs. Holloway might have kept. She was nervous, scared of something. I think I know what now. Mrs. Holloway has one more piece of information. She knows the name of the young artist Vivian stole from 5 years ago. The woman was paid $50,000 to sign an NDA. She might talk to you now, if she knows she's not alone. Part 1. The Invisible Daughter. Objective. Establish emotional foundation. Introduce family dynamic as simple favoritism. Surface layer. Plant foreshadowing for deeper conspiracy. Tone. Quiet tension. Subtle unease. Word count target. 1,000. 100 to 1,000. 200 words. 2. The twist revealed intellectual theft. After the call, Alexandra digs through her old emails. She finds the draft of the letter she wrote to Vivian 7 years ago. Then she pulls up Vivian's artist statement from the gallery website. She reads them side by side. Her heart stops. The theft isn't word for word. Vivian was too smart for that. But the framework is unmistakable. Alexandra's metaphor about winter passing appears in Vivian's statement as the patient stillness before transformation. Alexandra's philosophy about preparing the soil becomes Vivian's tending the internal garden. Every major theme, every distinctive image, every emotional core, it all originated in Alexandra's letter. Vivian didn't just steal an idea. She stole her sister's voice. She built a career by wearing Alexandra's words as a mask. 3. The final straw. You don't have a future. Her parents call an emergency family meeting. Alexandra flies back, expecting perhaps an apology, an explanation, something. Instead, they present her with legal documents, a complete waiver of all inheritance rights. To simplify the estate, Dad explains. Vivian speaks for the first time, her voice cold and matter-of-fact. Let's be realistic, Alexandra. Your diagnosis isn't good. Your treatment isn't working. You don't have a future here. Don't drag this family down with you. Sign the papers, take a small settlement, and let us all move on. The room is silent. Their parents don't object. They don't even look uncomfortable. This was Vivian's idea, and everyone agreed to it before Alexandra walked in the door. 4. Strategic Action 3 messages at dawn Alexandra doesn't sign. She stands, says nothing, and walks out. She drives back to the airport. On the flight home, she opens her laptop. That night, at 4:17 a.m., she sends 3 messages. The first is an email to the ethics committee at Vivian's graduate school, with attached documentation, her original letter draft with timestamps, Vivian's artist statements, side-by-side analysis. The second is to the gallery representing Vivian, with Mrs. Holloway's written testimony, and the name of the artist who was paid off 5 years ago. The third is a voicemail to a former colleague who now works at a law firm specializing in financial crimes. I need to report fraud against a family trust. Forged signatures. I have documentation. Call me back. Cliffhanger. I didn't send those messages for revenge. I sent them because I finally understood. They weren't just neglecting me, they were waiting for me to disappear. Part 4. When the Castle Falls. Climax Consequences. Objective. Show the domino effect professionals uncover deeper scheme justice served through systems reveal the darkest layer of family's plan. Tone. Controlled satisfaction. Disturbing revelations. Justice arriving. Word count target. 1,000. 100 to 1,000. 200 words. Alexandra's current context. 5 weeks after sending the messages, she secured better treatment through a patient advocacy organization. The attorney has filed formal complaints. She waits, recovering her strength while the wheels of justice turn. Key points to develop. 1. Professional destruction. Quiet but total. The art school's ethics committee opens a formal investigation. They contact the artist who signed the NDA 5 years ago. Once she learns she's not alone, she agrees to provide a statement. NDAs can't prevent cooperation with academic ethics investigations. The pattern is undeniable. The gallery suspends their representation of Vivian pending review. Within a week, 3 collectors who purchased Vivian's work demand refunds from the gallery. Alexandra's current context. Sitting in a hospital waiting room, 2 months into her diagnosis. Just received news that her position at the marketing firm was eliminated during company restructuring, devastating timing that leaves her without income or health insurance. About to reach out to family for the first time. Key points to develop. Citing misrepresentation, the gallery, not Vivian, bears that liability. Art community whispers spread through social media. No dramatic public scandal, just doors closing permanently, one by one. Vivian's Instagram goes private. Then the account disappears entirely. 2. The investigation deepens financial crimes revealed. The attorney files a formal complaint with the district attorney's financial crimes division. Investigators subpoena trust fund records and family communications. What they find goes beyond forgery. Email correspondence between Richard and Diane shows they consulted an estate planning attorney about expedited restructuring of the trust, specifically asking what would happen to Alexandra's share if her condition becomes terminal. They find a spreadsheet on Richard's computer, financial projections titled Post, a scenarios with calculations based on the trust being consolidated. A calendar entry for a meeting with a wealth advisor, scheduled for the week after Alexandra's first chemo treatment. They weren't just stealing from her. They were building a financial plan around the possibility of her death. 3. Justice arrives different forms for different crimes. Richard Reese is charged with forgery, embezzlement, and fraud. Given his age, lack of prior record, and willingness to cooperate, he accepts a plea deal. 18 months in state prison, 5 years probation, and full restitution. Diane, whose involvement was less direct but still criminal, receives 12 months of home confinement and 5 years probation. Vivian's role as harder to prove criminally conspiracy requires specific evidence of agreement to commit crimes, and her involvement was more about knowing and benefiting than actively forging documents. She avoids criminal charges but faces civil liability. The settlement requires her to pay damages to Alexandra and the artist she plagiarized. She also loses her scholarship, her gallery representation, and her professional reputation. 4. The wrong apology, revealing final truths. Mom calls Alexandra from the house that will soon be sold to pay settlements and legal fees. Her voice is thick with tears. Are you satisfied now? You've destroyed everything we built. This family is finished because of you. Alexandra's response is quiet but firm. You planned for my death while I was in chemotherapy. You calculated what my inheritance would be worth if I didn't survive. You don't get to be the victim, Mom. Silence. Then Dad's voice, in the background, the first time he's spoken directly to her in months. We made a mistake in how we handled Alexandra interrupts. You didn't make a mistake. You made a plan. Those are different things. She hangs up. It's the last time they speak. Cliffhanger. They apologized for getting caught. They never apologized for the plan. Part 5. The life she chose. Objective. Resolution with dignity, show healing without fairy tale. Demonstrate consequences without melodrama. Empowering message for audience. Tone. Quiet strength. Earned peace. Forward-looking hope. Word count target. 1,000. 100 to 1,000. 200 words. Alexandra's current context. 8 months after the revelations. Treatment responding well. New city, new chapter. For the first time, living without the weight of family expectations or family schemes. Key points to develop. 1. Alexandra's new chapter built on truth. The doctors are cautiously optimistic. Her latest scans show the treatment is working. She's moved to a new city, not running away, but starting fresh. She works as a freelance marketing consultant now, choosing her own clients, setting her own hours. She's discovered she's good at helping small businesses tell their stories. Something about finding authentic voices resonates with her. She speaks at a support group for adults estranged from family. 1. Opening moment. The phone call that reveals everything Alexandra receives, confirmation that her treatment will cost more than she can afford without help. Her phone rings. It's Mom. But Mom doesn't ask about her health. She's calling to remind Alexandra to send a congratulatory gift for Vivian's upcoming exhibition at a prestigious gallery. Your sister has worked so hard for this moment. Don't forget. The call ends without Mom asking a single question about Alexandra. Not as an expert, but as someone walking the same road. I used to think being cut off from family was the worst thing that could happen, she tells them. Now I understand. Being cut off from yourself is worse. And some families require you to do that to stay connected to them. 2. Real consequences, no fairy tales. Richard Rees serves his time in minimum security. He'll be out in 14 months with good behaviour. Diane lives alone in a small apartment, her social standing destroyed, her bridge club memberships quietly revoked. The house where Alexandra grew up, where she was systematically overlooked for 3 decades, sells to a young family who know nothing of its history. Vivian's trajectory is more complicated. She lost everything she built on lies, but she's not destroyed. She teaches children's art classes at a community centre now, takes small commissions for local businesses. Whether she's learned anything or is simply rebuilding her mask in a new location, Alexandra doesn't know. She doesn't care to find out. Some questions don't need answers. 3. Mrs. Holloway, the unexpected gift. Alexandra visits Mrs. Holloway in person for the first time. The retired teacher lives in a small house filled with student artwork from 40 years of teaching. I kept those records for 15 years because I was angry, she tells Alexandra over tea. But I think I was also waiting to see if the truth would ever matter to anyone. She gives Alexandra a small painting, her own work, not a student's. It shows a single tree in winter, bare branches against a grey sky, but if you look closely, there are tiny buds forming for your new apartment, she says, to remind you that winter always ends. It hangs above Alexandra's desk now. 4. The letter she keeps full circle. In her new apartment on a quiet Sunday morning, Alexandra sits at her desk. Sunlight streams through the window. She pulls out a piece of paper, real paper, the kind she rarely uses anymore, and begins to write. Not to Vivian, not to her parents, to herself, about perseverance, about worth, about preparing the soil and trusting the seasons, about the difference between being strong for others and being strong for yourself. It's the same theme she once gave away to someone who weaponized them, but these words are different. These words know what she's survived. These words are hers alone. When she finishes, she folds the letter carefully and puts it in her desk drawer. Not hidden, but private. No one else will ever read it. Closing lines. Alexandra Rees didn't win by destroying her family. She won by surviving their plan. She didn't seek revenge. She sought the truth. And when the truth came out, consequences followed. Not because she orchestrated them, but because that's what happens when lies are exposed to light. Her mother asked if she was satisfied. The answer was complicated. She wasn't happy about what happened, but she was at peace with what she did. Some people asked if she would ever forgive them. She said, "Forgiveness is for people who are sorry. My family is only sorry they got caught. And I've learned that you don't have to forgive someone to move on. You just have to stop letting them define your worth." Richard Rees will leave prison eventually. Diane will finish her home confinement. Vivian will keep teaching children to paint. And Alexandra will keep living, not in spite of them, but completely independent of them. That, she decided, was the only victory that mattered. This is the pattern of her entire life, distilled into 90 seconds. 2. Pattern of invisibility established through specific memories. Alexandra has always been the child who doesn't need attention. She earned her own scholarships, bought her own condo, built her career in marketing without family connections. But looking back, she notices something darker. Every time she succeeded, her parents seemed almost inconvenienced. Her college graduation they left early for Vivian's recital. Her promotion to senior PM they forgot to call. Her self-sufficiency wasn't praised. It was expected, then exploited. 3. The letter crucial foreshadowing, carefully seeded. 7 years ago, Vivian nearly quit art school after repeated rejections. She called Alexandra sobbing at 2 a.m. Alexandra spent 3 hours on the phone with her, then followed up with a long handwritten letter. In it, she shared her philosophy about perseverance, including a metaphor she'd developed during her own difficult years. Art is like waiting for winter to pass. You don't force spring to come. You prepare the soil,